Jake Morrison stood at the command center of the Orbital Defense Station, Liberty's shield, when the alarm started screaming. The massive screens showed something that made his blood run cold. Hundreds of alien ships had appeared from nowhere, their dark red hulls gleaming against the stars like drops of blood. Each ship was 10 times larger than humanity's biggest warship. Jake had been a commander for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien fleet moved with perfect coordination toward Earth and its colonies. Their ships had strange designs with curved edges and pulsing lights that hurt to look at. Jake grabbed his radio and called Admiral Ben Carter, who was leading Earth's defense fleet from the flagship New Horizon. The admiral's voice was tense when he answered. Carter had fought in 3 wars and never lost a battle, but today would be different. On Mars Colony, Captain Lisa Hayes watched the alien ships approach through her binoculars. She commanded the colony's defense forces and had 2,000 soldiers under her command. The colonists were afraid, but they trusted her to keep them safe. Lisa had grown up on Mars and knew every tunnel and cave on the planet. She would use that knowledge to fight the invaders. The aliens sent a message to all human settlements. Their leader called himself Commander Zexthai, and his voice was cold and mechanical. He said his people were the Kethfer Empire, and they had conquered 17 star systems. They gave humanity 72 hours to surrender completely, or they would destroy every human in the galaxy. The message ended with images of dead worlds that had refused to surrender. President Helen Stone sat in the White House Situation Room surrounded by her advisors. She was the first woman president and had always been tough in negotiations. But this was different from any crisis she had faced before. The military leaders told her that Earth's fleet had only 300 ships, while the aliens had over 1,000. The odds were impossible, but she would not give up without a fight. The first battle began near Jupiter, where Admiral Carter tried to stop the alien advance. The human ships fired everything they had, but their weapons barely scratched the alien hulls. The Kethfer ships had shields that glowed blue when hit and seemed to absorb the energy. Then the aliens fired back with weapons that looked like purple lightning. The human ships exploded one after another. Carter watched helplessly as half his fleet was destroyed in minutes. The alien weapons were unlike anything humans had ever seen. They called them gravitational disruptors, and they could crush a ship like a tin can. The admiral ordered his remaining ships to retreat, but many were too damaged to escape. He lost 200 ships in the first battle, and barely 50 made it back to Earth. Colonel Rick Wade was in the Pentagon when news of the defeat arrived. He was in charge of military strategy and had planned defenses for every possible enemy. But he had never planned for aliens with such advanced technology. Wade was a calm man who never panicked, but today he felt fear for the first time in his career. He started making emergency plans to defend Earth itself. Dr. Amy Foster worked at the Space Research Center and studied alien life forms. She had always hoped to meet aliens, but not like this. When pieces of destroyed Kethfer ships were recovered, she examined them carefully. The alien technology was centuries ahead of human science. Their metal was stronger than anything on Earth, and their computers were far more advanced. But Foster noticed something interesting about their ship designs that might be important later. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Captain Tony Blake led a mining operation when the aliens attacked. His workers were tough people who had spent years in the dangerous ice caves. When the Kethfer ships arrived overhead, Blake knew they could not fight them directly. Instead, he led his people deep into the caves where the aliens could not find them. They would hide and wait for a chance to strike back. The aliens landed troops on Mars Colony and Lisa. Hayes got her first look at the enemy. The Kethfer were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They wore dark armor and carried weapons that could melt through steel. Lisa's soldiers fought bravely, but their bullets bounced off the alien armor. She was forced to retreat into the underground tunnels with her surviving troops. Marine Lieutenant Kate Phillips was on the moon when the invasion began. She was training new recruits when the alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. Phillips was known for never leaving anyone behind, and she started organizing the evacuation of civilians. But many people refused to leave their homes even when facing death. She realized that humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Engineer Mike Santos worked on an asteroid mining station when the aliens attacked. His job was to operate the huge machines that cut up rocks and extracted valuable metals. When Kethver ships approached his station, Santos did something unexpected. He turned the mining lasers toward the alien ships and opened fire. The lasers were not designed as weapons, but they could cut through almost anything. One alien ship was damaged before they destroyed the station. Back on Earth, President Stone addressed the world on television. She stood behind her desk in the Oval Office and spoke directly to every human alive. She said that humanity would never surrender to alien conquerors. Every person on Earth and in the colonies would fight to defend their freedom. Her words were broadcast to every human settlement and gave people hope in their darkest hour. The Kethver established orbital blockades around Earth and began landing troops in major cities. Their soldiers moved through the streets like they owned the planet. But something strange happened that they did not expect. Instead of surrendering, humans began fighting back with whatever weapons they could find. Store owners shot at alien patrols with hunting rifles. Factory workers threw bombs made from industrial chemicals. Even children helped by carrying messages between resistance groups. Commander Zexthai studied reports from his officers and felt confused. In every other conquest, the local population had surrendered within days. Fear was supposed to break their will to fight. But humans seemed to become more dangerous when they were afraid. His soldiers reported that humans would fight to save complete strangers and never abandon their wounded comrades. Communications. Officer Dan Cooper worked from a hidden bunker beneath Denver. His job was to maintain contact between all human settlements despite alien jamming. Cooper had been a radio operator for 20 years and knew every trick to keep signals hidden. He created a secret network that allowed resistance groups to coordinate their attacks across the solar system. As the first day of occupation ended, both sides prepared for a long war. The Kethver had superior technology and numbers, but they faced an enemy they did not understand. Humans had something the aliens had never encountered in their previous conquests. They had the fierce determination to fight for their freedom, no matter what the cost. The invasion was just beginning, but humanity's response would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Commander Zexthai expected the humans to surrender after seeing the power of his fleet. In every previous conquest, the local species had given up within 3 days. Fear was the Kethver Empire's greatest weapon, and it had never failed them before. But as the second day of occupation began, reports from his officers painted a disturbing picture. Instead of begging for mercy, the humans were fighting harder than ever. On Europa, Captain Tony Blake led his miners in a guerrilla war against the occupying forces. The ice caves beneath the moon's surface provided perfect hiding places for his small army. Blake knew every tunnel and cavern after working there for 8 years. When Kethver patrols entered the caves looking for humans, they found themselves lost in a maze of passages. Blake's men would attack from the shadows and disappear before the aliens could respond. The mining equipment became weapons in Blake's hands. Thermal drills could melt through alien armor, and excavation charges made powerful bombs. His miners were tough people who had survived years in one of the most dangerous jobs in the solar system. They were not afraid of aliens who had never worked a day in the ice. Blake organized ambushes that destroyed 3 alien transport ships and captured enough weapons to arm 200 fighters. Marine Lieutenant Kate Phillips had evacuated most civilians from the moon's research stations, but she refused to abandon the remaining scientists. Dr. Robert Chun was working on a project that might help humanity's war effort, but he needed more time to complete it. Phillips stationed her Marines at every entrance to the underground laboratory, while Chun's team worked around the clock on their secret weapon. The aliens attacked the laboratory with overwhelming force, but Phillips had prepared for this moment. Her Marines had rigged the tunnels with explosives and created killing zones where superior numbers meant nothing. For every Marine that fell, 10 Kethver soldiers died. Phillips held the laboratory for 6 hours until Chun's team could escape. With their research data, engineer Mike Santos had survived the destruction of his asteroid station by hiding in an escape pod. He drifted in space for 18 hours before being rescued by a group of asteroid miners who had formed their own resistance cell. Santos brought valuable intelligence about Kethver ship designs and weapon systems. The miners decided to convert their cargo haulers into fighting ships using Santos's knowledge. Working in secret shipyards hidden inside hollow asteroids, Santos helped design weapons that could be built from mining equipment. Plasma cutters became ship-mounted cannons, and ore processors were converted into missile launchers. The cargo ships were slow and ugly, but they could carry enough firepower to threaten alien destroyers. Santos created a fleet of 20 converted ships before the aliens discovered their hidden base. Dr. Amy Foster made the most important discovery of the war while studying captured Kethver technology. She found that all their systems were connected through a central nervous network, similar to how their society was organized. The aliens had a rigid hierarchy where every individual knew their exact place and followed orders without question. This made them efficient, but also predictable. Foster discovered that specific electromagnetic frequencies could disrupt the alien communication network. If she could build a powerful enough transmitter, she might be able to jam their coordination systems. She shared her findings with Colonel Rick Wade, who immediately understood the implications. An enemy that could not communicate effectively would lose their greatest advantage. Colonel Wade worked with Foster to develop what they called the neural disruptor. The device required rare materials and sophisticated electronics that were hard to find during wartime. Wade organized teams of scavengers who raided abandoned research facilities and military bases. They needed components from 17 different locations to build even one prototype. On Mars Colony, Captain Lisa Hayes had turned the underground tunnel system into a fortress. Her soldiers struck at alien patrols and retreated into passages too narrow for Kethver troops. The aliens tried using gas weapons, but Hayes had prepared for chemical attacks. Every tunnel had air filtration systems, and her people wore protective masks at all times. Hayes discovered that the Kethvar could not function well in tight spaces. Their large bodies and 4 arms made them clumsy in narrow tunnels. Human soldiers could move quickly through passages where aliens had to crawl slowly. This gave Hayes a tremendous advantage in underground fighting. She organized hunting parties that eliminated alien squads one by one. The colonists on Mars showed incredible courage in supporting Hayes's guerrilla campaign. Farmers provided food for the fighters, while mechanics kept their equipment running. Even children helped by carrying messages through tunnels too small for adults. The entire population became part of the resistance effort. Commander Zexthai grew frustrated with his officers' inability to crush human resistance. He had conquered advanced civilizations with ease, but these primitive humans refused to accept defeat. His military advisors recommended using planet-killing weapons to make an example of Earth. But Zexthai wanted to capture human worlds intact. For the Empire's use, the Kethver commander decided to commit more troops to pacification operations. He sent his elite guard units to eliminate the most troublesome resistance leaders. These soldiers wore advanced armor and carried the Empire's best weapons. They had never failed in previous campaigns, and Zexthai expected quick results. President Helen Stone moved the government to a secret bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. From there, she coordinated resistance efforts across all human territories. Stone's leadership kept hope alive, even in the darkest moments. She made daily broadcasts that reached every human settlement and reminded people why they were fighting. Communications. Officer Dan Cooper expanded his secret network to include alien resistance groups. He discovered that 3 species conquered by the Kethfer Empire were planning their own rebellions. Cooper established contact with freedom fighters on distant worlds and began sharing intelligence about Kethfer weaknesses. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced coordinated rebellion across multiple star systems. The second week of occupation brought the largest battle yet when Admiral Ben Carter emerged from the Outer Rim with 60 surviving ships. He had spent the time gathering scattered human forces and converting civilian vessels into warships. Carter's fleet was outnumbered 5-1, but they had advantages the aliens did not expect. Human crews had been modifying their ships with weapons designed by Mike Santos and defensive systems created by Dr. Foster. They used tactics that violated every rule of space combat, but caught the Kethfor completely off guard. Instead of fighting in formation, human ships scattered in all directions and attacked from unexpected angles. The battle lasted 8 hours and ended with the aliens retreating for the first time in their history. Carter lost 20 ships but destroyed 40 alien vessels. More importantly, he proved that humans could win against superior numbers through superior tactics and determination. As the third week began, Commander Zexthai realized he faced a completely different kind of enemy. The humans were not just fighting for survival, but for something the Kethfar had forgotten long ago. They were fighting for the right to be free, and that made them more dangerous than any weapon. Admiral Ben Carter had been hiding in the Outer Rim for 3 weeks, while the galaxy thought he was dead. His fleet had grown from 60 ships to over 200 as miners, traders, and colonists joined his cause. These were not military vessels, but cargo haulers, passenger ships, and industrial platforms converted into warships. Carter knew that conventional tactics would never work against the Kethfer's superior technology. He needed to think like a human, not like a traditional admiral, commander. Jake Morrison had escaped from Liberty's shield when it was destroyed, and now served as Carter's tactical advisor. Morrison brought detailed intelligence about Kethfer ship movements and supply lines. He had identified a major alien depot on Ceres that supplied their entire inner system operation. If they could destroy it, the aliens would lose months of stockpiled resources. The attack on Ceres became humanity's first major offensive operation. Carter assembled every available ship for the assault, while Morrison planned the tactical approach. They would hit the depot with everything they had, and retreat before reinforcements arrived. The converted cargo ships carried enough firepower to level the city, but they were slow and vulnerable to counterattack. Captain Tony Blake led the ground assault team that would capture the depot's control center. His miners had become expert soldiers. During weeks of guerrilla fighting on Europa, they wore salvaged alien armor and carried weapons taken from dead Kethfer troops. Blake's team knew they might not survive the mission, but they volunteered anyway. The battle began when Carter's fleet emerged from hyperspace directly above Ceres. The alien defenders were caught completely off guard by the sudden appearance of so many human ships. Morrison's intelligence had been perfect, and the depot was lightly defended. The converted cargo ships opened fire with every weapon they carried. Blake's assault team landed during the chaos and fought their way to the control center. The facility was enormous and housed enough supplies for 10,000 alien troops. Warehouse after warehouse contained weapons, ammunition, and equipment that the humans desperately needed. Blake's miners used their demolition skills to destroy what they could not carry away. On Earth, Colonel Rick Wade launched Operation Prometheus exactly as the series attack began. He had spent weeks preparing coordinated strikes against every major Kethver installation on the planet. Human resistance groups attacked simultaneously in 50 different locations, using weapons based on Dr. Amy Foster's electromagnetic discoveries. The neural disruptor proved devastatingly effective against alien communication systems. When Wade activated the prototype device, every Kethver unit within 100 miles lost contact with their command structure. The rigid alien hierarchy collapsed into confusion as officers could not receive orders or coordinate responses. Human fighters struck while the aliens struggled to reorganize. Sergeant Alex Turner led a special forces team in capturing the main Kethvar command post in New York City. Turner was a veteran of 3 wars and had trained his team for this exact mission. They moved through the city's subway tunnels and emerged directly beneath the alien headquarters. The Kethver never expected an attack from underground. Turner's team fought floor by floor through the occupied skyscraper. The aliens had superior weapons, but humans knew the building's layout better. Every room became a battlefield as the Special Forces team advanced toward the command center. Turner lost half his men, but captured valuable intelligence about Kethver military plans. Pilot Maria Santos flew reconnaissance missions that gathered crucial information about alien fleet movements. She was Mike Santos' sister and shared his engineering genius. Maria had modified her fighter with stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to Kethver sensors. She could fly deep into enemy territory and return with intelligence that saved countless human lives. During one mission, Maria discovered that the aliens were preparing a massive assault on the moon's research facilities. Dr. Robert Chon's team was close to completing their secret weapon, but they needed more time. Maria transmitted the warning just hours before the alien fleet departed for the attack. Marine Lieutenant Kate Phillips received Maria's warning and prepared her defenses. Accordingly, she had only 300 Marines to defend against 5,000 alien troops, but Phillips had turned the moon's research complex into a fortress. Every corridor was mined, and every room had multiple firing positions for her defenders. The battle for the moon lasted 3 days and became one of the bloodiest fights of the war. Phillips's Marines held every position to the last man before falling back to prepared secondary defenses. The aliens advanced through the complex, but paid a terrible price for every meter of ground. Phillips lost 200 Marines, but killed over 3,000 Kethver soldiers. Dr. Chun's team completed their work just hours before the final alien assault. Their secret weapon was a virus designed specifically to attack Kethvar computer systems. It would spread through their network and disable ships, weapons, and communication equipment. Chun transmitted the virus to resistance groups across the solar system before the laboratory was overrun. Engineer Mike Santos had established a new base inside a hollow asteroid where he continued building converted warships. His fleet of civilian vessels had grown to 50 ships armed with improvised weapons. Santos led them in a desperate attack against the Kethver fleet retreating from the moon. His cargo haulers were no match for alien warships, but they fought with incredible courage. The battle ended when Chun's virus began affecting Keth systems throughout the solar system. Alien ships lost power and crashed into asteroids, while weapons platforms shut down without warning. The virus spread faster than the aliens could contain it and crippled their entire operational network within. Ours. Commander Zexthai watched his carefully planned invasion collapse into chaos. His officers reported system failures across the entire fleet, while human resistance groups launched coordinated attacks on every occupied world. The primitive species he had expected to conquer in days was defeating his advanced military with improvised weapons and desperate courage. On Mars Colony, Captain Lisa Hayes emerged from the tunnel system with 2,000 fighters armed with captured alien weapons. The Kethver garrison was in disarray from the virus attack and could not coordinate an effective defense. Hayes led her colonists in a final assault that drove the aliens completely off the planet. President Helen Stone addressed the nation from her mountain bunker as reports of victory poured in from across the solar system. Human forces had liberated half the occupied territories and captured enough alien technology to reverse engineer advanced weapons. The tide of war was turning in humanity's favor. The Kethvar Empire faced its first major military defeat in over 2 centuries. Other conquered species heard about human victories and began planning their own rebellions. Commander Zexthai realized that his invasion had awakened something far more dangerous than he had anticipated. Humanity was not just fighting for survival, but showing the entire galaxy that the mighty Kethvar Empire could be beaten. Admiral Carter's fleet had grown to 400 ships as more colonists joined the rebellion. The converted civilian vessels were crude compared to alien warships, but they carried something more valuable than advanced technology. They carried the fierce determination of a species that would never accept defeat. The Kethvar Empire had never faced a sustained rebellion in its 200-year history. Commander Zexthai received urgent messages from the Imperial High Command demanding explanations for his failures. The Empire's elite forces were being deployed to crush the human uprising before it could inspire other conquered species to rebel. Zexthai knew his career, and possibly his life, depended on defeating these stubborn primitives. Admiral Ben Carter commanded a fleet of 600 ships from his flagship New Horizon when the alien reinforcements arrived. Half his vessels were converted civilian craft, but they carried weapons designed by the finest human engineers. Mike Santos had created ship-mounted versions of Dr. Amy Foster's electromagnetic disruptors that could disable Kethvar vessels without destroying them. Carter planned to capture as many alien ships as possible to study their technology. The Imperial fleet was led by War Commander Drakvin, the Empire's most successful military leader. He brought 1,000 warships, including the dreaded Devastator, class vessels that had destroyed entire star systems. Drakvin studied human tactics and recognized that conventional warfare would not work against such an unpredictable enemy. He decided to use terror weapons that would break human morale. Commander Jake Morrison had established a spy network throughout the solar system that intercepted alien communications. His agents reported that the Kethvar were planning to use biological weapons against civilian populations. Morrison transmitted this intelligence to all resistance leaders with orders to evacuate non-combatants immediately. The aliens wanted to commit genocide, but humans would not let them succeed. Captain Tony Blake led the evacuation of Europa's civilian population while preparing the move for a final battle. His miners had turned the ice caves into a fortress that could hold out for months. Blake's people had become expert tunnel fighters, and they would make the aliens pay dearly for every meter of ground. The evacuation ships carried women and children to safety, while the fighters remained behind. Dr. Amy Foster had developed biological weapons specifically designed to target Kethvar physiology, but she refused to use them against civilian populations. Her research team created viruses that would only affect military equipment and communication systems. Foster believed that humans could win the war without becoming monsters like their enemies. Her weapons would disable alien forces without causing unnecessary suffering. The largest space battle in human history began when the Imperial fleet attacked Earth itself. War Commander Drakvin expected to overwhelm human defenses with superior numbers, but Admiral Carter had prepared a surprise. The converted civilian ships scattered throughout the solar system and attacked from every direction simultaneously. The rigid Kethver formation was broken by chaotic human tactics. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the rebuilt Mars Defense Fleet from her flagship Mars Defender. Her ships were armed with gravity weapons, reverse-engineered from captured alien technology. Hayes had learned that Kethver vessels were vulnerable to their own weapons when properly modified. The Mars fleet struck the alien rear guard while Carter attacked from the front. Pilot Maria Santos led a squadron of stealth fighters in a desperate assault on the Kethver flagship. Her mission was to plant Dr. Foster's computer virus directly into the enemy command system. Santos knew it was a suicide mission, but she volunteered anyway. Her fighters slipped through the alien defenses, using stealth technology that made them nearly invisible. The virus upload required Santos to fly her fighter directly into the enemy ship's docking bay. She fought her way through alien security forces while her team uploaded the virus to their computer core. Santos died in the assault, but her sacrifice crippled the entire Imperial fleet. Alien ships began shutting down as the virus spread through. Their network's engineer Mike Santos watched his sister's sacrifice from the bridge of his converted cargo hauler. He led his improvised fleet in a ramming attack against disabled Kethver vessels. The civilian ships were too slow to escape if the aliens recovered, so Santos decided to destroy as many enemy vessels as possible. His miners fought with the fury of people defending their homes. On Earth, Colonel Rick Wade coordinated the defense of major population centers, while President Helen Stone organized the evacuation of non-essential personnel. The neural disruptor network had grown to cover most of the planet and could jam alien communications across entire continents. Wade's ground forces used this advantage to ambush Kethvar landing parties. Sergeant Alex Turner led urban warfare, specialists in house-to-house fighting through occupied cities. His teams had perfected tactics for fighting in close quarters, where human agility gave him an advantage over larger alien troops. Turner's soldiers moved through sewers and subway tunnels to strike enemy positions from unexpected directions. Battle for Earth lasted 5 days and ended with the complete destruction of the Imperial fleet. War Commander Drakvin died when his flagship exploded from internal sabotage. The surviving Kethver forces surrendered or fled to distant star systems. Humanity had won its first major victory against the Empire's best troops. Marine Lieutenant Kate Phillips survived the moon battle and was promoted to lead the liberation of Titan. The moon had been converted into a massive prison camp for captured humans, but Phillips's Marines fought through the alien defenses and freed over 10,000 prisoners. Many of the freed captives immediately joined the resistance effort. Dr. Robert Chun completed his next project, a quantum communication system that could coordinate human forces across interstellar distances. The technology was based on alien science, but improved with human creativity. Chun's system allowed instant communication between Earth and the most distant colonies without risk of interception. Commander Zex Thai faced execution for his failures when he returned to the Imperial capital. The Kethver High Command could not understand how their advanced military had been defeated by primitive humans. Other conquered species began declaring independence after hearing about human victories. The Empire faced rebellions on 17 different worlds. Major Chris Bell led the liberation of the outer colonies using captured alien warships. His fleet consisted entirely of converted Kethver vessels, crewed by human volunteers. The aliens had designed their ships for rigid hierarchical command structures, but humans modified them for flexible tactical operations. Bell's hybrid fleet was more effective than either pure human or alien designs. President Stone established diplomatic contact with other species that had been conquered by the Kethver Empire. She offered military assistance to any world that declared independence. from alien rule. The Terran Federation was born as humanity became the leader of a galactic resistance movement. Communications. Officer Dan Cooper expanded his network to include alien resistance groups throughout the galaxy. His quantum communication system connected dozens of revolutionary movements and allowed them to coordinate their activities. For the first time in centuries, the Kethver Empire faced organized opposition across multiple star systems. The war entered a new phase as human forces launched offensives against alien-controlled worlds. The converted fleet grew larger as more. Kethver ships were captured and pressed into service. Human engineers improved alien technology, while alien weapons were adapted for human use. The primitive species that had been invaded 6 months earlier now possessed the most advanced military in the galaxy. War Commander Vexron was appointed to replace the dead Drakvin and restore Imperial authority. He brought fresh troops and new weapons designed specifically to counter human tactics. But Vexron discovered that humans had evolved beyond the species that had been invaded. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. A race of warrior liberators who fought not for conquest, but for freedom itself. War Commander Vexron arrived at Earth with the largest Kethver fleet ever assembled. 3,000 warships, including planet-killer weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations. The Imperial High Command had ordered the complete extermination of humanity to prevent their rebellion from spreading further. Vexron was confident that overwhelming force would succeed where strategy had failed. Admiral Ben Carter faced the final battle with a combined fleet of 800 ships from 17 different species. The human vessels were joined by rebels from across the galaxy who had declared independence after hearing about human victories. Carter commanded not just humanity's defense, but the liberation of every conquered world in Kethver space. The battle began when alien planet killers targeted Earth's major cities. These massive weapons could crack continents and boil oceans, but Dr. Amy Foster had prepared humanity's ultimate defense. Her team had developed planetary shield generators based on captured Kethver technology, but improved with human innovation. The shields held against the first bombardment while Carter's fleet attacked. Commander Jake Morrison led the assault on Vexron's flagship with a squadron of captured alien vessels crewed by human marines. His mission was to disable the planet killers before they could fire again. Morrison's ships had been modified with human weapons and tactics that confused the rigid Kethver defense systems. They fought through the alien fleet using unconventional maneuvers. Captain Tony Blake emerged from Europa's ice caves with a fleet of mining vessels converted into ramming ships. His miners had spent months preparing for this moment by loading their ships with every explosive they could find. Blake's fleet was too slow to escape after their attack, so every ship became a guided missile aimed at alien capital vessels. The sacrifice of Blake's miners created openings for the main assault. Force. Captain Lisa Hayes led the Mars defense fleet through the gaps in alien formations, while pilot Maria Santos' sister, Anna, led stealth fighters in precision strikes against command ships. The human forces coordinated perfectly despite the chaos. Of Battle. Engineer Mike Santos had converted an entire asteroid into a massive weapon platform armed with gravitational disruptors. His mobile fortress emerged from behind the moon and opened fire on the alien rear guard. The improvised weapon was crude compared to Kethvar technology, but it carried the determination of people fighting for their freedom. President Helen Stone commanded the battle from her underground bunker while coordinating with resistance leaders across the galaxy. Her quantum communication system allowed instant contact with rebel forces on dozens of worlds. As the Earth battle raged, simultaneous uprisings began throughout Kethver space. Colonel Rick Wade's ground forces prepared for the inevitable alien landing attempts. His troops had turned every major city into a fortress using tactics learned during months of occupation. The neural disruptor network could jam alien communications across entire continents, while human forces maintained perfect coordination. The battle reached its climax when Morrison's assault team penetrated Vex Ren's flagship and fought their way to the command center. The war commander faced human soldiers in personal combat and discovered that individual Keth-4 were no match for humans motivated by righteous anger. Morrison captured Vexron alive and broadcast his surrender throughout the alien fleet. Foster's computer virus spread through the Keth-4 fleet faster than their technicians could contain it. Ship after ship lost power and crashed into each other as their rigid formation collapsed. The aliens had become dependent on their technology and could not function when their systems failed. Human crews boarded disabled vessels and captured them intact. Sergeant Alex Turner led boarding parties that seized control of alien capital ships. His urban warfare specialists adapted quickly to fighting inside Keth-4 vessels and turned their own weapons against them. Turner's teams captured over 50 major warships and thousands of prisoners who provided intelligence about the Empire's remaining forces. The Keth-4 fleet was completely destroyed or captured within 12 hours. War Commander Vexran became the first Imperial leader ever taken prisoner by a conquered species. His capture sent shockwaves throughout the Empire as other commanders realized that their supposedly invincible military could be defeated by determined resistance. Chris Bell led the Liberation Fleet to the Imperial capital world where the Keth-4 High Command had ruled for 2 centuries. The planet was defended by massive orbital fortresses, but Bell's mixed human-alien fleet used tactics that no pure Keth-4 force could match. The fortress shields fell to combined bombardment from 17 different weapon types. Marine Lieutenant Kate Phillips commanded the ground assault that captured the Imperial Palace. Her troops fought through the elaborate defenses using equipment and tactics learned during months of guerrilla warfare. The High Command surrendered when Phillips's Marines reached their throne room. Communications Officer Dan Cooper broadcast the news of victory to every human settlement and rebel world in the galaxy. The Keth-4 Empire had fallen after 2 centuries of oppression. Dozens of conquered species declared independence and established their own governments based on human democratic principles. Dr. Robert Chan's quantum communication network became the foundation for a new galactic civilization. The Terran Federation offered membership to any species that embraced freedom and democracy. Former enemies became allies as the galaxy began to heal from centuries of imperial rule. Admiral Carter was promoted to head the new Terran Defense Force, which included ships and crews from across the galaxy. The fleet's mission was to prevent any future empire from conquering free worlds. Carter's forces patrolled space lanes and protected developing civilizations from aggressive neighbors. President Stone became the first leader of the Terran Federation, which united humanity with dozens of alien species. The new government was based on the principles that had driven human resistance: freedom, equality, and the right of every species to determine its own destiny. Stone's administration focused on rebuilding worlds devastated by Keth-4 occupation. The war crimes trials of captured Keth-4 leaders lasted for years as the galaxy sought justice for centuries of oppression. But humanity insisted on fair TRILS that followed legal procedures rather than simple revenge. This commitment to justice impressed former enemies and convinced many Keth-4 civilians to support the new democratic government. Engineer Mike Santos became head of the Federation's technology development program, which combined the best innovations from every member species. Human creativity merged with alien science to produce advances that neither could achieve alone. Santos's team developed faster-than-light travel, advanced medical technology, and agricultural techniques that ended hunger on dozens of worlds. The former imperial worlds were rebuilt with human assistance and transformed into free democracies. The rigid hierarchy that had defined Kethver society for millennia was replaced by governments chosen by their own people. Many former soldiers joined the Terran Defense Force and fought alongside humans to protect galactic freedom. Commander Zexthai, the original invasion leader, was pardoned after providing intelligence that helped locate hidden Imperial weapons caches. He became an advocate for peace and worked to prevent future conflicts between species. Zexthai often said that humans had taught his people the difference between conquest and liberation. As the first year of peace ended, exploration ships from the Terran Federation made contact with civilizations beyond the former empire's borders. These new species approached humanity with respect and caution, having heard stories of the people who had defeated the mighty Kethver Empire through sheer determination and tactical brilliance. The galaxy had learned that humans possessed something more valuable than advanced technology or superior numbers. They had the fierce determination to fight for freedom, no matter what the cost. This reputation preceded them as Federation ships explored distant star systems and made contact with new civilizations. Captain Morrison, now an admiral, led the first deep space exploration mission beyond known galactic boundaries. His fleet discovered 3 new civilizations that had been hiding from Kethver expansion for decades. These species eagerly joined the Federation after learning about human principles of freedom and self-determination. Dr. Foster continued her research into alien biology, but now focused on medical applications that could help all Federation species. Her team developed treatments for diseases that had plagued various worlds for centuries. The same scientific curiosity that had created weapons against the Kethver now worked to heal and protect life throughout the galaxy. Federation established academies on dozens of worlds where young people from different species learned together. Human instructors taught courses on democracy, individual rights, and peaceful conflict resolution. These schools became symbols of the new galactic civilization that valued diversity and cooperation over conquest and domination. Trade routes that had been controlled by the Empire for centuries were open to all species. Human merchants worked alongside alien traders to establish fair commercial relationships based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. The galaxy's economy flourished as free trade replaced imperial tribute systems.